Welcome back, David. Very great to hear from you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you again. So we'll get down to it. The New World Order is coming. The Great Reset is taking place. Now, you've read the Secrets of the Kabbalah, and
Yes,
you've noticed that there is the 19 letters, and then on the Kabbalah Tree of Life, there is the 9 and the 11.
yes, with the
Yes.
dot,
Now,
yes.
yeah, depending on how you calculate it, but they say that chapter 119 of the Psalms, or something, it's like at the center or the heart of the Bible. 109, 119. Yes, backwards, 911. Yeah, and there's so it's chapter 119 Psalms, and so the thing is, they say that in the late 19th century, early 20th century, many Christians read this psalm during funerals, but in Christianity they've stopped now. Many Jewish people, they read this psalm 119 for funerals, and similar prayers the Muslims say. So basically 911 or 119 basically means death. Yes.
All right.
And so if you've read Science of the Kabbalah and 33 Degrees, and by now you must have noticed they've totally invented the calendar starting from the year 1900. Yes.
Right, yeah, certainly.
Yes, you've noticed this.
Yes,
So now when you go to 1900, and that's the year zero, yes, when you could say the establishment of the new order, which new order of the ages, or whatever you want to call it, or the beginning phase. Yes, you add on 119 years. Yes, you get to the year 2019.
oh yes.
Yes. So that's the 119 years. Yes, Psalm 119, and then things change. Yes. So they're following a timeline for the Great Reset. Yeah. And so after that came, COVID-19 once again. Yeah. And so the thing is, COVID was, like they've admitted it, and many people know it now, it was a scam. And it was like the big test to see how far they can go to break the rules-based order. Now, the rules-based order was set up after the Bretton Woods Agreement in the 60s, when they established another phase of the New World Order. Yes. And so the Bretton Woods Agreement was basically the unification of the British pound and the dollar, and the secret deals that so that the dollar will now replace the British pound. Yes, as the global international currency. And that's what it was. And so the next phase will be that the dollar will be replaced by the digital currency. But and now that the Epstein files have come out, which you've read the Illuminati Games, and so from that book, what would you know about Epstein?
Honestly, I can't claim to remember all of the contents, and you just mentioned that also this release is coded through. So of course we'd have to look for the 911s and the 19s and all of
But
those
let's simply
indicators.
classify it. The Epstein files, so much devotion and everything is going on there. Yes, by so many. Now, would you say it's legitimate, or it's all a scam?
Well, the fact that this is now being released by all public media outlets makes it most likely that there is some type of forgery about this. But
Yes.
yeah,
Now the scam is this. We do know that all of these things, many of these things are going on. Now the scam is this, that they've released a lot of information, but it's basically going to come down to it's insufficient evidence for proper convictions, on a mass scale, even though many people know it's happening at a mass scale. And they're talking about eating human flesh, drinking blood, and things to do with, blood to do with energy and for youth and all these other things. But this is related to digital currency, believe it or not.
All right. How is it related?
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like many people, they don't look at the greater picture. What's it got to do with the Great Reset, digital currency, and how digital currency and artificial intelligence is going to, be everywhere, the cameras, and what's it actually going to mean? And where does human blood come into this? Yes. So the thing is, what they did is, when they set up the new order, yes, so knowing Albert Pike's works, even that we can tell that it's a lie that he wrote it, but
Yeah.
it's like a handbook for masonry and other things. Now, going through that, what is the biggest opposition to masonry? What would you realize? Let's say you're a student who wants to move up the hierarchy, that you have to do the essays and the examinations in masonry, yeah, so that you could become, a very good operative mason. Who is the who or what is their biggest opposition?
From everything that you've explained so far, it
Not
would
what I've
be,
explained, from what you could see.
well, it would be the Sunni Muslim system.
Yes. Now the main reason why, it's because who is it that had the least or almost zero images and symbols?
Right. This is known even today that there shall be no depictions of the Prophet Muhammad.
Not just the Prophet Muhammad, but which religion? Because I pointed it out from Albert Pike's works. The image thing is very important, the
Right.
image of the
Yeah.
beast.
Albert Pike clearly doesn't like Islam.
And it's because they had the least what?
The least iconography, I
Images.
guess. Yeah.
Yes, images, any sort of images. So now, when the old world system broke apart, the thing is, many people went backwards. Same like when you look at Gaza today, people aren't going to school, no education, they become illiterate. The number of words people speak goes down because we learn languages from schools. So just as you pointed out, like the Jesuits have said, give me a 5-year-old child, and what can they do?
Exactly. Yes.
Brainwash. Yes. So what they did was they invented all these languages, and you'll find these in my books, Skull and Bones and The Last Crusade, and many of my other books. I showed that they invented the languages. Now, many people will want to say that their languages are old, like, oh, German is old, oh, English is old, oh, French is old, oh, Arabic's old, oh, Hebrew's old, oh, Sanskrit's old. Unfortunately, they're not. They were all artificially invented by the Masons. Now, the Masons and the Jesuits together. Yes,
We would
they
say
worked
this may have happened about 200-300 years ago. What would be the
less
time
than
frame?
that.
All right.
The vast majority, about 150 years ago, they started. So what they did was that in the Bible it says, "Thou shalt have no images." That's why the Bible is a very important book. Yes, and of course, many people want me to say, is it the word of God or not? I'm sorry, I can't go that far. As a researcher, what I can say is that this is a very important thing, an image and an idea. So what they did was, for every nation state, they invented languages in centers like Cairo. From Cairo, they were, preparing languages such partly from Cairo, partly from Paris. Cairo was the Paris of the East, from Moscow, from London, and places like that. So what they were doing is helping to invent all these languages in the 19th century. Yeah, and so like they invented many of them, and then the Masons and their Jesuit allies and other people and the Empire business people went spreading these languages as far away as Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam. You will go to their country, and the people will say our languages have been ancient. But if you go, for example, I've experienced it myself in villages in Southeast Asia or in Latin America or in Africa, many people just have 100 or 200 words. And each person or in each locality in the villages, they've just invented words and to describe things like soap or are you coming, are you going, and they'll use sign language too, like putting their hand backwards to show I go, or I go before, or putting it forward to show I go after. And so the thing is, what we can see is that they've invented images. What they did was they gave everybody a national flag, and people are worshipping the part of the beast, like worshipping a flag. People will attack people for a flag,
Like
like in Europe.
worshipping an image, basically, yeah.
Yeah, in Europe we can, yeah, same like a football team flag, worshipping an image. So it's part of the beast. This is what Masonry was about. Yeah, they invented national anthems, languages. What they did was they were teaching poetry, and you can check in every country from Bulgaria, from Vietnam to China, from to England, to everywhere, to Egypt, to Colombia. So in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, people focused more on poetry, and poetry was used, and people call it folk songs, and they're going to say it was based on ancient songs. It wasn't. So they gave you languages. They invented the poetry themselves. And the languages, they mathematically balanced them so that they have gematria. And then these poetry songs spread. Yes, you will notice the Vedas, they're in poetry. You will notice the Sikh religious books, they're in poetry. You will notice the Hebrew Bible, the vast majority is poetic poetry. Yeah, the Quran, yeah, it's poetic. The Muslims don't like to use the word poetry, but it rhymes up to a certain extent. So you will see that Shakespeare, poetic poetry. So that's what they did. And then after that, it helped to build the languages. That's why, 30 years ago, people focused on Christmas carols and other rhymes.
Yeah,
Humpty
and
Dumpty sat on the wall.
just to
Humpty
mention,
Dumpty had a
at
football. Yeah.
at least with Shakespeare, it is well known and officially documented that many words were basically introduced through the works of Shakespeare, many words that supposedly didn't exist before
Yeah.
that.
It's the same in every language. I'm talking now global because we've got global listeners. We've got people who are listening from Myanmar. We've got people from Japan, from China. So anybody who wants to check it, they could just simply do 1970s school Serbia poetry. It was very important because people didn't know these languages. It's building up that the grandparents and great grandparents in the 1930s and 40s, they knew even less language. So it was part of the Enlightenment process. Yeah, and this was after the fall of Constantinople, which this man called Fatih Mehmet, or Sultan Sol, yes, like the sun, and in Slavic Salavat or Slavite, yeah, or Salawat in Arabic, yes, the way of the light, yes, and so it was like to enlighten everyone. Yes, so that people could have languages, so that they could speak, so that they could express themselves. But what the Masons did was they knew that humans, yes, they worship images. So they gave you flags. They gave people icons. They gave people statues, idols, images, like we saw in Hinduism. Yes, as I showed with Nachiketa, you've probably watched it. That the Hindus had no images or statues or idols. The people
Yes,
didn't even go to Hindu temples. Hinduism basically didn't exist. You know. Yes.
yes, you showed
Yeah.
this with the so-called temple movement, I believe, where even the originator then was
Yeah,
not happy
and
how it turned out.
most people, they got the pictures of these, Rama, Sita, Shiva, Krishna, the images, after the printing press. Yeah, and then they turned them into small statues, German companies, British companies, and then they started to spread only in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and it's become widespread now. Yes, or even many villages in India where people are still uneducated. Yes, the thing is, people don't have much of a language. They don't know anything about this Hinduism religion. They just have that you could many people would classify them as barbarians, and people are afraid that some of them are involved in cannibalism and things like this. But anyway, the whole Enlightenment process started after the fall of the Vatican and all these walled cities that they turn on and talk about, hey, the so-called Crusades, which they claim was the Arabs, but it wasn't the Arabs. It was the people who we call Mussulman or Muslims in Europe and in Asia, or what people call Tartaria. What they did was they went around blowing up these, stupid walled cities where all the nobles lived. Yes, or in the old language of the rabbi, or in Old Hebrew known as Old Arabic or Arabi, they were called nabis or nobles. And that bloodline. So they broke these city walls and everything. And if many people check through some of these things, what you will find is that all their women couldn't show the hair, and they had their full body covered, and things like this. And the peasants were basically naked. They lived outside these small star-fort walled cities. They lived outside, and these people had no languages. They were naked, and many of them were eating mud. And this is the reality. And all these people who are claiming, oh, we are from this race or this background and this that, it's not real. That it is well known that all these history books and whatever manuscripts that were written, they were written just for those walled elite families known as the nobles or the children of the nabis. Yes, navi, in Hebrew, you can check it. So what many of them did was that the thing is they understand the Kabbalah. And the Kabbalah, what it goes to, it turns around and says that man has been created in the image of God. Yeah, the Quran goes a bit further and it turns around and says that God told the angels and the jinns or the spirits to bow down to Adam. Yes, to bow down to humans. Yes, that humans were above them. Yes. So the thing is, in the Quran, it says that God gave them humans the spirit. Now, many translations will say it is God's spirit or my spirit, but in the actual Arabic text, it doesn't say that because the Quran is written in a poetic form. So that's why it's impossible, same like the Bible is impossible to translate fully. It's anybody who can check, just type into Google translating poetry. Translating poetry is difficult. Now, bear with
Yes.
me, and I will show you what this has got to do with digital currency and human blood and Epstein, and you'll think, oh my God. Yeah. So humans have got the spirit. So now, when people push this, many people are trying to say humans have got the spirit of God Himself. Now, that is not clear. It depends. It's on your own opinion on what you want to translate. So when it says in the Bible that humans were created in God's image. Now, the thing is, you can have an image of, let's say, a robot. So you create that robot. That does not mean that that image is actually you. It just means it was your idea or an image. So it depends on your interpretation and meaning. But anyway, the thing is, humans have got creative power. The Quran actually points out and says that, it talks about, apart from God, it talks about creators in plural. Some people would say. But anyway, the main thing is the creative power is shown in the Kabbalah and in the books of Hinduism, where they say you basically become a god because you've created another human life or other human life when you've had children. So they say that while in the process of sexual process, the man, yes, is using the energy and his creative powers from his brain, and from there he produces his sperm to actually create someone. So the brain is the main part. And so I don't know if I told you this before, but I shared some videos before of how the human brain is the most advanced power source for artificial intelligence. Do you remember this?
I'm not sure I'm fully aware of what you're referring to.
Well, you could do research on it.
I mean, it makes
Um,
sense. The body uses very little energy. The brain is probably the most complex thing that we are
yeah,
aware
it's
of.
not about making sense. This is actually scientific fact. You can check it. There's many people have made videos on it. That in the end, you've seen many futuristic movies because they already know what they're planning, whereby humans are sleeping in a pod forever, and that pod, the top of your brain, is connected by wires to the central computer. You've seen that, yes?
Yes, sure.
Many movies like
Matrix,
this,
yeah.
and many people are horrified, thinking that's going to be the future. Yes, but anyway, so the walled cities were broken, and only their women, the nobles, they wanted their women to be dressed in clothes. And so Jesus Christ led a revolution, and so many of his followers, the women, started wearing clothes like the nobles, but the nobles weren't having this. So they set up some of their own walled cities when Jesus Christ was leading a revolt, and it got into a certain movement, but it never managed to destroy the nobility and all their walled cities. Yes, but that was like the beginning. And Jesus Christ, if you read the Bible, many people say he was Yeshua, Joshua. No. When you read the name Joshua in the Old Testament, or the Torah, if you want to say, it says that in Hebrew, or the language of the Arabai, it's basically a similar language as the Quran. It's basically the same. It says his name was Osea. Yes, we went through this a long
Hmm.
time before. So his followers became known as the Ottoman,
I
the
see.
Ottoman. Yes, and that was the name. Well, of course, they've invented the modern Turkish history and the Islamic history, and they say that the main crusades and the people who destroyed, yes, the biggest city in the world, Jerusalem, which was Constantinople, were the followers of Ottoman. And in European, they call it Ottoman. Yes, which is clearly another Germanic word, Otto von Bismarck or Otto or things like this. Yes, so that's why they were called the Ottoman. Yes, and today we call them in European Ottoman, but if you go to Turkey, they will say Osman. Yeah, and they've invented this and they've put a similar history in Judaism and for the Old Testament, and they say that it was the Hasmon dynasty with a H. Yes, and they say from there came King Herod and Jerusalem and things like that, and Christ's followers began there, etc. They put it in BC AD, the same history of Osman, and so that was basically the 1,000-year kingdom of Christ during the Middle Ages. Yes. And so they tried to defeat the nobles, but they couldn't take the main city. Yes, which was Jerusalem, which was Constantinople, which is Istanbul today. And along comes the final guy along the line of the Osmans or the Ottomans, and he's known as, they call him Mehmet or Mohammed the Conqueror. Yes, which seems like the only Muhammad that we could find in history. Yeah, and they've claimed that he lived in the deserts and he took the city of Mecca. That's what they're saying, but and invaded and took over that city. But the reality, from Professor Anatoly Fomenko and others have shown, that his army came basically from the north. Yes, it came from the north. It had Germans, Slavs, you could say Russians, you could say French, people like that. They came, they stormed Constantinople. And from there began the Enlightenment. And then the Vatican was based in Constantinople. They ran to Rome. I'm sure you know Fomenko's story. You've probably got used to this by now. Yes?
Yes, you had mentioned this before, and but just again to give everyone a time frame about when would that have happened? How many years ago, if what we
This
can
could be,
calculate?
it's because Flamenco doesn't talk about the last 2 centuries. So he says the 15th century. But if we remove two centuries that he doesn't talk about. And you could see the century of Napoleon has been falsified, and things like this. Even a lot of history of the 20th century, between the two wars, doesn't make sense. The repeats. Yes. So we could probably say, the two centuries that Fomenko doesn't talk about, from the 15th, it moves it to the 17th, which seems like realistic, because after this, what we have is that the Vatican ran to Rome. And you saw Rome. We did a video on this. There was
Yes.
nothing there. It was an empty field. And, military leaders arrived who called themselves the Pope. Yes. And their people, and what they did was, they were basically military bishops from the nobles' families, the main nobility of Constantinople or Istanbul. Yes, they were what you could say, from the house of Israel, or the Judeans, yes, who ruled Jerusalem. Yes, and so that's why you will see the Vatican and all these people wearing the kippah. Now, the kippah, or the same mosque hat or something, it's like that is the dome of the universe, and they're wearing it like a symbol of protection. Yes, that it's protected, that is where the spirit is. It's in your brain. So then, when you now that you've read the science of the Kaaba, you will notice the way that the Sunni system, or the system of light, or the sun, or Salavati, like in Slavic Slavete Gospode, yes, or in Arabic Salawat, yeah, and so the system of the soul, the sun, yes, or the light, yes, they've set up a system whereby you see a black boxed type of, or cube-shaped building, but it's not a cube. It's more of a tesseract in Mecca. And you will notice that artificial intelligence works in a system whereby it's like in a black box. You notice this,
Yes,
yes?
indeed.
And then, so the same black box you will notice is on the forehead of people who want to practice Judaism, and on their hand. Yes, you've noticed. Yes,
Yes,
on
the
the hand and the head.
Tiferet, right?
Tefillin.
Tefillin,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. But you'll notice that. So there's the black box. Yes, and many people want to say Saturn, this and that. They're just being unrealistic. Let's talk realistic things here. So now, when you wrap the tefillin around your hand, I want you to imagine that that is the microchip, and those things that are going into your hand, into your blood veins, and the black strap is the wires.
I see.
Yeah. Yes. And so on your head, you've got another one that's there, which is the microchip and the microprocessor to go into your brain. Yes. And that is going to be connected to the central computer. And the central computer, if many people check out, even before Zionism, the Freemasons and others, they talk about the temple. They already had the temple plans. It didn't have to be in the current location of Israel, Jerusalem, but they chose that. Yes. And but can you see what this is now? The microchips and the wires to connect you to the central computer.
Yeah, it's like even before they can implement it technologically, they are using it in a, how should I say, esoteric sense by
Spiritual
making
way.
people do the ritual already and, I don't know, get used to it or something.
Preparations. Yes, the preparations. Yes. So now where does it come into the blood? It's because what they're going to do is, when the wires are connected, yes, and it will feed off the human blood from the brain, the most advanced place of humanity, where the spirit is, where your creativeness is. You've read the book 33 Degrees and the Secrets of the Kabbalah. So you understand the creative ability of humans, yes, from their brain, how it, programs and creates your sperm and things like this.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So the wires will feed to the brain, and it's going to feed off your blood, and then that energy is going to be transferred to the central computer, which they want to have in Jerusalem, and the terminal of this is going to be in Gaza. Now, what they've done is they've diverted everyone, thinking Epstein files, Epstein, he works for Israel, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And same like everybody is saying, oh, all these wars are for Israel. Yeah. Now, I'm going to talk a bit more common sense here. Now, did Israel get anything from the war in Iraq?
Not that I'm aware of, but I
Not
don't
that
know.
we can see. So now many people are talking about the, hundreds of thousands, could be even millions of Iraqis in Western countries. Iraqis, Kurds, Shia, Arabs, and many of them came because of the war in Iraq, which lasted 19 years. Notice the number 19 and the 19 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and things like this. Same like in Gaza, they're saying 19,000 people died during the main war. Yes, the 19 is not a joke. And they say 19,000 students, yes, basically didn't get educated or died or something. I forgot the figures. Yeah. Then they say Iran attacked after 19 months of war in Gaza. So, and by the time that the peace deal was signed, there were 66,000 dead. So you could see it's all a bit of a, the figures are fake.
Yeah.
And the figures of the death are released by Hamas Health Ministry, yes, to match the same Kabbalistic codes of all the wars that Israel has been involved in. It's in my book, Israel and Palestine. Did you notice it's all based on the Kabbalah to do with the number 19, and the number 19 is the 33rd degree. Yes, do
Yes.
you remember?
Yes, you've shown many
That
examples of this, yeah.
yeah. For Israel and Palestine, the entire conflict has been doctored and created in a fake way. And the thing is, unfortunately, people are dying from it. Yeah. So now what they don't tell you is that for the smart cities, yes, right now, yes, they're building data centers everywhere. And they've spent so much money on them and using so
Yes.
much energy on them throughout Europe and America and other modern countries. With that money, they could have, modernized that money. People are saying this belongs to Europe and America. We'll get to that in a minute. That money is stolen from these Muslim countries in the
Hmm.
Middle East in the first place. I'll show that in a minute, and you will think, oh my God, this is the biggest scam ever. Yes, and that's another major reason why they're accepting so many of these Middle Eastern people and Muslims and from that side of the world to come here, because they're taking their money in such a big way because they need it to set up the Great Reset. So what they've got is Gaza is only 5 kilometers wide, and everybody's turning around and saying, Israel is doing this and that, but Israel really doesn't really have no power. It doesn't do anything. I mean, if they wanted to, they could have expelled the people in Gaza in the last 50, 70 years, but they didn't.
And
And
everyone knows they're completely dependent on America, just like Europe is.
well, we're talking about a bunch of peasants in Gaza, and how powerful Israel. It basically couldn't expel these peasants,
Hmm.
and yeah, the fake international borders, because that's part of the beast to make you think this is my country, this is my borders. Whereas in Northern Europe, many people didn't live there; they were only taken there from the Mediterranean regions in the 19th century and from Eastern Europe. But no, many people in Northwestern Europe are going to say we've been here for centuries, but they haven't. Like in England, Scotland, Wales, and many other things. Like we could see many Irish people in Boston. Yes, they call them Irish, but they came from Russia, and things like this. And unfortunately, people similar to many English people, also in Scottish, but people just don't want to believe it. They want to believe in their beast and their images and think that, hey, my nationality, my language, and things like this. Well, don't worry, they'll be worshipping the beast soon anyway, while they're all squabbling and fighting about all of these things. Yes, the New World Order is taking shape. Yes, and the Great Reset is coming, and it looks like they're the only ones who are going to join it first. Yes, the Western modern nations, and they're not going to be able to stop it. I doubt it. Yeah. So now, when we look at these people in Gaza or the Middle East, one, the nobility doesn't like it because they are dressed like the real nobility. The real nobility that was in the walled cities, the women covered their hair and they dressed in a similar, exact same fashion. Yes, with the decorations that you see these Arabs or Asian or Indian Muslims and people like that have, and the colors and things like that. I'm being serious to you. You can check all of this. It's unbelievable. I'm not saying it because I'm on it. I approve or disapprove. So what they wanted to do was to show that the rest of the world are animals. They have animal behavior. And so this is shown in the movie Matrix, whereby Keanu Reeves, he's distracted by an image of a beautiful
The
woman.
woman in the
A
red dress,
woman,
yes.
yeah, yeah. It's basically the appearance. And so now many people worship their beauty. It's worked in the West. Yes. Whereas in the other side of the world, yes, amongst Orthodox Judaism and amongst Islam, that's why nobody likes Orthodox Judaism. There's two sides to Orthodox Judaism. One side, yeah, now that the Epstein files are open, many people know it's linked to pedophilia and things like this. And many of these Talmud things. But the thing is, because they wanted and Sharia things, things like this, where you see all these Christians arguing with these crazy Sharia people saying, "Oh, the Prophet Muhammad he married a 6-year-old girl, 9-year-old."
Right.
Yeah, and then you hear the Muslims turn around and say, "Oh, read your Bible, Isaac he married a 3-year-old girl." And the Talmud says, there's nothing wrong. You're not hurting the child at 3 years old, basically, but it's disgusting. So the thing is, either way, it goes like that. It's disgusting. They'll keep fighting. But it's a fact that in England 100 years ago, a large percentage of people married their cousins. That's why people call them inbreds in Northwestern
Hmm.
Europe. And, um, and many girls were getting married at the age of 9. This is well known. Yeah. A large percentage. And so Europe's population grew very fast because there was child marriages, 8, 9, 10 years old. And so things like this. And then the vast majority of the people who went from Europe to the United States arrived by 1950. They did not go in the 19th century. We could see them going in boats in the 1940s and 50s. And, half the people couldn't even speak English in the 1950s. Yes. Do you
Yeah.
remember we went through
Yes.
this
You've
evidence?
seen this
Yeah.
even with the army, which kind of said, "Oh, kind of please learn English" or something like that. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so the thing is, even though many Americans now think that their ancestors came in the 1850s and 1860s, sorry, no, in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, it's 100 years later. But many people don't realize this because they don't check and not just check. What happened is, they taught this new Masonic system whereby it's the image of the beast, an image that you imagine. That's why the one eye symbol that they claim is God, it's an image that you're imagining with your eye or AI. Yes, with one eye or
Yes.
AI. Yes. But anyway, once this system is implemented, their 6G is going to come out soon. Yeah. The thing is, everybody is going to be connected to this system, wired down. And soon people are going to have humanoid robots in their houses who's going to be our assistant, washing clothes or doing whatever, doing everything. It's going to be our friend day and night. And people aren't thinking artificial intelligence exists out there. And people have been talking about it for centuries. Yeah, they used to call them ghosts. But then those stories of ghosts died out by the 1950s, 60s, 70s. People forgot about the past. Yeah, but people saw the ghosts or the genies or the geniuses or the jinns in Arabic. They saw them as dangerous. Yes, they saw it as dangerous, and it had a lot to do with the collapse and the destruction of the old world order. Yeah.
Hmm.
So going back to Iraq now and Israel. So right now they want to collapse the rules and based international order to bring in the Great Reset.
Maybe
So
just
after
briefly, can you explain to everyone what would the rules-based international order mean? You mentioned Bretton Woods, but how? what is the
After
difference
that,
they
what
want to
does it
create?
mean is that the rules-based international order is what we've had basically, during our lifetime. And those things are going to totally change. And they're changing. Yes. The thing is, so the test phase was COVID. And then COVID, and they noticed that, yeah, many people were awake, but it wasn't awake enough because people didn't take action to actually think, hey, what's going on? That they broke the rules. And that was when the police forces and started to get a bit more physical. They were physical a lot in some protests, but that was the beginning of like even further, where you could see the New Zealand Prime Minister basically how she's speaking, like basically trying to force the injections into your bodies and things like this. You could see it everywhere. So the thing is, they're lying about the percentage of people who took these injections. It could be a lot lower than what they're saying.
All right.
So because many people just didn't take them. So then the main rules of morality and human values, the main thing is they wanted to push the system further. Yes, and to push the system further is that what happened is the 100-year anniversary of Gaza from 1923, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire or the Osman Empire or the Hasmon dynasty, the final collapse. Yes, and that is all the way from Germany, yes, Austria, and these places whereby they created these new nation states, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Austria, and all of these things. They just created them. And then nationalism became a form of worship. And in Europe, what many people don't know is that when these nationalist forces were out in Western Europe, then it spread to the East in the 60s and 70s. So in Western Europe, in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, they told people to, in Nazi Germany, other places, to take off their headscarf. So the headscarf was a major thing because it's like right now you could see many Arab women, as long as they're wearing the headscarf, the skin color is white. So you can't tell if they're an Arab or not.
Hmm.
And it was similar in America. So when they took the headscarf off, you could see a big difference. Some people had curly hair, some people had black hair and things like this. Some people had blondish hair and things like this. So they couldn't create uniform nation states. That is when, in the early 20th century and late 19th century, they started these, sterilization programs to get rid of what they called, it could be that your brother had curly hair, black curly hair. That's it. He doesn't fit in with our theory
Yeah,
of,
and the so-called demographic engineering, as you mentioned.
yeah, yeah. So they did that, and they realized by the 1950s and 60s it had failed because the people with blonde hair were giving straight blonde hair were giving birth to children with straight black hair, or vice versa in Europe. So they thought, oh, yeah, the project didn't work. It was a failure. Yeah, it's like I've got a friend in England. Yeah, her parents have got light brown hair and blue eyes. But she was born and she's got pitch black hair and very like dark brown blackish eyes. Yes, and same with her brother. So and she was born I think she's probably around 35, 40 or 45 now. I'm not sure. Yeah. And so the thing is, so they didn't know what to say. So the thing is, they just turned around and said, "Oh, your grandparents were Jewish." And then so she came to me and she said, "Hey, David, I'm related to you. My grandparents, their parents were Jewish." So then I turned around and said, "Is there any photos? Everything." So she showed photos and everything, and then they traced one of the ancestors, and it just so happened that they brought him from Southern Europe and during World War One or two, and from somewhere related to Italy. And then it turned out that she's not Jewish. But the main thing is that they needed an explanation. So you see, so then they thought, oh, forget it. It didn't work. So the thing is, all these fighting and these wars, it didn't work. But anyway, let's get back to Iraq. Yes. So everyone's saying it's Israel. So they prepared these videos even many years ago for Netanyahu to saying, hey, if you basically get rid of Saddam, then the Middle East changes and things like that. So that then everybody could point their finger at the Israelis. Yes, it's because now what they did was they totally collapsed the rules-based international order, that all the rules are gone in front of your face. Now, the Iraq War, they broke all the rules, killing children, raping people. American soldiers were doing this and that, human rights abuses. Everything was there, but you couldn't see it. You could read about it, but you didn't see it. So what they did on purpose was during the war in Gaza, they made sure that everybody could see it. They actually wanted you to see it. And now they're making sure that the blame is going to be on countries like Israel, that Israel is stopping you from seeing these things. Israel is removing all the Gaza murder videos and bombings of civilians
And
and random shooting of children
we
from
also had
TikTok, YouTube.
COVID, as you mentioned, and also the recent thing with Venezuela, even if it's just actors, but you could clearly see
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
direct violation of any
Yeah,
principles if you would believe
and
the
of course,
story.
everyone's pointed to Israel, but let me show what they're doing in Gaza. Now, it's 5 kilometers wide, and Israel isn't powerful. It couldn't take out a bunch of peasants. Yeah, and so the thing is, those people in Gaza are not from Gaza. They're actually from Israel. So the thing is, yeah, they stole their houses. People who came from Europe, many of them weren't even Jewish. After World War II, Europe was a mess. So many people thought, hey, where are we going to go? Yeah, people in Central Europe. So so many were Jewish, but many actually weren't. And they thought, hey, we could just go over here. We're going to get a new life, new whatever, or we're going to have to wait in destroyed cities in Europe, which is going to take 20 years. Why wait 20 years? You can come over to Palestine. You could take somebody's house. So the people in Gaza lived in Israel. So they threw them out. So so they threw them out, and then what they don't tell you is that before this October the 7th, the Israelis were shooting, hundreds of people for many, many years because many of these people wanted to go back home because their father's house is just across the border, a fake border that they created called Israel, same like the fake border between France and Germany, that they were fighting about who
Yes.
really owns Strasbourg, who owns the Rhineland, the Ruhr, and things like this, and the fake border between Italy and France. That's why many people in northern Italy will say, hey, in Milan, they used to speak French. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
because I'll talk about these language schools later if we've got time. So anyway, along this 5 kilometers wide strip, which is up to 30, 40 kilometers long. Yes, 30, 40 kilometers long. They've set up all these data centers. And so what they've done is that they've given, a food program, and they've got something called PalPay, not PayPal, Palestine Pay, PalPay. Yeah,
Wow.
and from there, yeah. So one of the biggest charity scams was during the Gaza war. So what they did was, all these, Israeli businessmen, yeah, they made a lot of money. Yeah, so they prolonged the war. What they were doing is, getting all these aid trucks. They know that many people in Europe and America, yeah, they made sure that these people could see the videos of their armed forces from the Jewish state shooting civilians, pregnant women or whatever, shoot that child in the leg or something, and yeah, make people feel sorry for them. And they know the middle and the upper class in Europe are going to think, oh, this is so horrible, and they're giving lots of money. So now the thing is, at the same time, yeah, they know that the world gives money towards the World Food Program at the United Nations. So the United Nations World Food Program is providing direct money into an app called PalPay to half the citizens in Gaza, so that when the food aid comes through, yeah, which people have given as charity, yes, things like that. Yeah, what will happen is, and many people have given their money, and so Israeli businessmen are selling products over there, yeah, in exchange for the charity money. And then the World Food Program money, that also, which comes into their, digital app on their telephone, yeah, from there they go and they have to buy the aid that's going inside Gaza. That's another scam. Yeah, and I've not seen mass scale starvation there, but there was. I think it was July, August, and September. For many, many days, many people couldn't buy food. And as you saw, I sent you evidence. Has all of Gaza been destroyed, or is like up to around half of the major built-up areas? Is it still there?
There's certainly a lot still there, yes.
Yes, it's because it's 30 kilometers long. So along the north, many buildings were already damaged, but they still damaged more and things like that. And along the south, called Rafah, they damaged that. It's like I've been checking many of the areas. I've checked many things. I've spoken to many people there. And so what they're doing in the data centers, they're seeing how people spend the money, how much nutrition everybody gets, for the carbon amounts. I'm being serious to all these things from the data centers. They monitor every conversation and everything that's done, and they know that people will be dependent on their phone to get, the universal basic income, which is coming out in all the smart cities. Yeah. So that is the reason why I turned around and said, if Israel wins in Gaza, it means the New World Order will win. Yes, and also they can't stand Gaza because the women are the vast majority wear a headscarf. I think it's over 90%. And of course, people are just going to come out with their stupid image of racism. And now, if you want to be like that, you're never going to get to the bottom of world history and human origin. But the nobles or the families of these Navis, yes, of the so-called prophets of the old world, yes, their women in their families, yes, dress like that, and the rest of the world, they say, are animals. So we want them in miniskirts, we want them in short jeans, we want them to be on the beaches or beaches, yes, beach girls, yes. So that is the real war about what feminism is about for them, for them. Now, you might call it a human right and certain things like this or that, but I'm talking about what it is to them. Like maybe you don't like what the nobles, how they want their women dressed and what the reason is. And they understand science and human behavior more than us because they're targeting us and they know that we'll behave in certain ways. And the people who are the least affected by this are Orthodox Judaism, but Orthodox Judaism has got more symbols, yes, and things like this. But the least affected by Freemasonry and by the Jesuits are the Sunni Muslims. And that's why the Islamic world is a problem for the New World Order, and it's the biggest challenge. So now let me get back to Iraq. So the Americans walked in. Everybody thinks they went for Israel, and they claimed that they had weapons of mass destruction. Now, if Iraq has got weapons of mass destruction, it's a danger to Israel. Yes or no? Yes?
Well, in theory,
Yeah.
but depending
So,
on who's really controlling the regime
okay.
also. So
Yeah. But did they find any weapons of mass destruction?
no, this is known in mainstream. They
So
didn't
that
find
means
anything.
it was never a threat to Israel. And that means that it had nothing to do with Israel, basically. Yes,
Right.
you see? So they lied about that. So that means it's a big lie to point it at Israel. Do you see what I'm getting
Uh-huh.
at now?
Uh-huh.
Yes. So the other thing was that Iraq and Saddam Hussein had decided that they were going to do trading um, and selling their oil, which is basically 98% of the country's money. Yes. What were they going to do? Were they going to sell it in dollars?
No, that's always the thing. Anyone wanting to
Yeah,
move off of the dollar, just like Gaddafi, at least
Saddam was
officially.
one. Yeah, and Gaddafi. So now I'm going to tell you this, and then people are going to realize and they're going to see immigration in a different way, totally different way, because there's many factors. So what they did in Iraq, they walked in, and they thought they could do it fast, but they failed to do it fast. So after 19 years, they basically walked out because they can't go beyond 19. They were basically terrified. They ran like dogs from Afghanistan and Iraq in an unstable fashion. Yes. The Western armies, yeah, Australian forces. I mean, what was Australia doing in Iraq? Now they're complaining all these people have come there. Why are you in somebody else's country? But then again, if you check Australia, like, for example, this Tasmania, they killed everybody there. The way that they killed everybody was evil. Yeah, they killed everybody there. And now today they're saying it's their land. And then they're going to complain and saying, hey, oh, there's all these foreigners in Europe and England. Okay. Yes, so why don't the people in Australia and Tasmania come back to England, France, Germany, and then those people who are over there, they will go back to their Asiatic lands. Yes,
Of course,
to
yeah.
their Asiatic and Aborigine lands. Yeah. Then Donald Trump turns around and says, saying, Greenland doesn't belong to you just because you came on some boats. Excuse me. We see you going in boats to the United States and Canada, and now you think it belongs to you, and you're trying to tell people who can live there. Then you see all these nationalists who are saying all these Latinos are crossing the border. Wait a minute, many of these Latinos are natives, yeah, who were forced out of America only 100 years ago, and less than that. Many of them, they pushed them into the north, into Canada. Many crossed over into Russia through Alaska, and the others, they forced them into the south, into Mexico, and said, go into Central America. Now they're just coming back.
Right.
That's all they're doing. And then they're going to turn and say, oh, look at Europe. Donald Trump's going to say, look at Europe, you can barely recognize it. And so you'll hear many nationalists who will say, hey, why don't these people who came from, these Indian lands, even North Africa was called India because they look like Indians. So why don't you leave the Indian lands too? It's the same story. So the thing is, but they're going to use all this racism. So now let's see.